This is how microphones work. You project your voice. Hello, architects.
Greetings.
Welcome to how I accidentally became a game developer, or in my case, how I accidentally became a speaker at a panel. Yeah. That's true.
Talk louder. Talk louder.
Sorry.
Radio show voice.
My name is Bert.
Hi, Bert. Nice to meet you.
I'm a music composer for video games. I'm joined by these guys. We are the RPG Architect team. You want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, my name's Matt. Online name is Mondune. Good to meet you guys.
He makes our sample games, so if there's something broken in it,
My fault.
if I didn't create the bug first. And then
Yeah.
my name's Taylor, go by Locke online. I am the lead and sole developer, so this is actually technically my panel, and these guys are riding on my coattails.
We're just along for the ride.
Yeah, really. Now, in fairness, I say this, but this is the actual guy who actually has his name in video game, like 18 plus now.
Roughly.
Yeah, and I've got an inch on Steam, so like.
That still counts.
Still good.
Still counts.
Yeah.
Still counts.
All right. Just before we begin, I want to remind everyone why we're actually here today. Obviously, because everyone here clearly wants to become a game developer, but also it's Memorial Day weekend, so if you guys don't mind, just 10 seconds, yeah? Just remember why we're here. All right. I'm going to start with an allegory. If you don't know me, I actually work out with a lot of SEAL people and other former military, so there's an allegory that Mark Devine actually used a lot. It's there are two camps that left to climb Mount Everest. One left in the middle of the day, early morning, right? Full visibility, perfect weather. Hey, we got it.
Microphone. This man is a hero.
But I hate microphones, so I'll just project.
Bert needs the mic.
The music, the sound guy needs the microphones. Anyways.
The irony.
The irony. But anyways, so one group, right, left, perfect visibility, no bad weather, anything, right? And another group left super early in the morning, dark, and they could only see about 2 feet in front of them at a time. So literally the person in front of them as they were walking and trying to scale Everest. So the question is, which one made it to the top? And I'll answer that later, but for now, suspense.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, right? So kind of my background is I've been a programmer basically since I was 10. I played with RPG Maker, Game Maker, all these other little engines over the course of my life. And I'd always build little custom things inside them, whatever, right? And I'd written my own engines just out for fun. And what ended up happening is this funny thing that some of you guys I think definitely understand. I had a kid, and then that added a lot of hours, late at night. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's time to finally be Bert and put my name on some game record or game credits, right? And so I started playing. I got back into RPG Maker after 15 years, something like that. And I said, okay, cool. I'd used it back in 2000, 2003. So NV was the latest to use it. And it's like, man, this is cool. They have plugins, but it looks the same, hasn't really evolved at all. It still makes a Super Nintendo style game. Love Super Nintendo, love Nintendo, but why not something with 3D, right? And something that should be accessible for everyone, right? So I went around, I found some plugins that worked. It's cool, okay, you can project into something called Babylon.js. It makes it 3D. Cool. Problem is it doesn't port to Nintendo. Ports very poorly to Sony. Works mostly okay on Microsoft, but not a great experience, right? And my background is in user experience when I'm a programmer. So it's that's a killer. That's a end of game type thing, right? So after struggling with it and rewriting the battle system and the map system and the actor system and, the NPCs and the treasure, you get the idea, right? It's I'm going to make my own. And so that's actually what I did. This is almost 4 years later now. So I just leveraged kind of my own skill set, my own background. And I'd encourage anyone who wants to build a game or anything, right? Leverage your unique, weird skills, right?
Mhm.
There's no reason not to. There's something that everyone here has to offer and can do, right? Whether it's graphics or audio, whatever. I mean, Bert makes our tutorials for RPG Architect. He's not a programmer at all.
No.
And you can watch him fail live in the tutorials. They're wonderful. They have a very specific voice to them.
Yes.
But it's awesome, right? And so if Bert can do it and struggle with math, seriously, there are memes about this, like
Yeah.
panning over the videos.
It's funny because I make all the memes. And
They're very self-aware. Then anyone can, yeah? So I kind of worked with, like, I want the first idea is like, okay, if I'm going to make something, I don't want that limitation of no Nintendo, like kind of Sony and like, okay, Microsoft. I program in Microsoft languages, so that's fine for me, right? But everywhere else, it has to go everywhere, right? And not only that, the editor itself should be accessible on anywhere Steam is or any like major PC platform, right? There's no reason to like silo yourself to some engines are like, oh, we're Mac OS on. It's like you're leaving out like 90% of the market. And imagine if you write a really good game, you're stopping people from having that, right? So my first kind of order of business was find out what I could do to make something that went everywhere. And that's for the editor side, right? Because there are two components to this, right? It's an editor that you use, what you see is what you get kind of interface. And the other one's an engine, right? The engine needs to go everywhere, every console. Technically, RPG Architect can run on Raspberry Pi. I would not recommend it. I have no plans on supporting it or doing that. But if enough people ask, it might just happen for fun.
Do it your own risk, basically.
April Fool's joke, people are like, it actually works. Yes, and it's not supported at all. So initially, I played around with the tech. Just, kind of my own background, right? Just play around, experiment, right? People talk about hacking, life hacker, blah, 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 all these other things, right? And it's just about, playing around, again, with your unique skill set and tinkering with it, see what you can do. So I did. I found some stuff that worked. A framework called Monogame, but I played with a bunch of others, so I'm not going to bore you with them. And a cool tech called Avalonia, which goes to Windows, Mac, and Linux. Funny how that works, right? In a language and kind of style of building that I'd already known. So cool, work with that. And early days, I just had some friends from the different plugins that I'd used with RPG Maker, and I said, hey, you guys want to try this, right? So I'd started building something. They're like, cool, they play with it. They're like, oh, okay, and yeah, here's a list of 7,000 things I found wrong. Fix it by tomorrow, right? And we kind of joke about that, but like I'm pretty quick on fixing bugs.
Oh, yeah. Dude, you're lightning fast.
So like we'll get a bug report in Discord and it's like gone the next day. Because I delete it, I don't fix it.
Just calling it out, right?
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Functionality loss, right? But no, so like kind of play with that, build something out, and then just kind of constantly deliver, right? Because that's the idea. Like my goal is to create a community because this is something I grew up with, and I spent a lot of my like junior high school years, even some of the university years playing with this, right? And so there are all these cool, unique people. Like he used RPG Maker the same time I did. I didn't know him. Bert used it as well, and he's actually a friend of a friend who like I've actually like. This is our first time meeting each other, right? So it's very awkward, right? So just like cool, we're cool, right?
I'm not clamming up.
And the fact that we look alike is like just it's just sheer coincidence.
Sure.
But yeah, so he was a friend of a friend that I actually knew, IRL, right? And he recommended him as a composer. So he had already been releasing soundtracks and stuff like that kind of for free. And I just had messaged him one day, like, hey, can I borrow those 7 songs you're releasing for free and include it? He's like, yeah, sure. And then it ended up that it's like, hey, I need a trailer for when we go to early access. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll make it for you, obviously pay him for the trailer music, right? And he's like, so what do you guys have for the actual video? I was like, nothing. You want me to put something together? Because this is not looking very good for you.
I put it nicer than that, to be fair.
Yeah,
It was pretty bad.
I'm the blunt one. He's the PC one. So that's kind of like how we I've known Bert for 3.5 years, probably.
Yeah.
Matt 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, about 2 years. Yeah, so totally going off script and off plan. So that is how we do.
It's an accident.
How I accidentally did it. Yeah. So kind of to talk a little bit about how you can harness some of those skill sets you have. And this is something you guys can do for anything in life, right? Whether or not you're trying to learn how to bake, if you're just trying to get some gains at the gym, because you guys all are gym rats, I know. Or if you're making a game, right? In the coaching world, in the performance, funny enough, workout world, we call them micro goals, right? In the software world, you also do something very similar, but this is micro goals is a much better thing than saying an epic and then a feature and a story and a user and whatever, right? So micro goals. So if I ask any of you guys, hey, I want you to build a game engine, you're gonna say, where do I start? Right? It's this giant monolithic thing and there are a billion pieces inside. So how do you do it? And the idea is you break something really complicated down into something really small, right? And again, this can go into something even with, if you want to be able to run like a 5K, right? What's the first thing you guys have to do if you're going to run a 5K?
Get off the couch.
Get off the couch. Hey, there's one. What's the next thing you have to do? Go outside. No, you don't have to go outside. You can go on a treadmill.
Shoes.
Shoes.
Some.
You know that there's actually a study. There's actually a study that shows that if all you do is put on some shoes and walk outside your house, not even like leave to walk outside your house, you put on shoes and you step outside your house and you stretch, there is a 90% chance you are going to become a runner and actually be able to run whatever you set your mind to. It's crazy. So it's about those little steps. And I think we're in an age where you're like, I want a burger, so I'm just going to go on Uber Eats or whatever, and you order it, it's there in like 15 minutes, right? Or you want the latest computer, you order it on Amazon, right? So there's that idea of instant gratification and convenience, right? But we forget that there are all those little steps along the way, like opening your phone, unlocking it, going to Uber, right? But like this for anything you do. So kind of just to walk you through very simply a very complicated problem. How do you build a game engine, right? So for the editor side of it, I knew that for rpgarchitect, I wanted something that was easy for everyone to use, right? So I wanted a way to 3D or 2D, and kind of the idea is you're going to build from the top down if you're in 3D, and there are going to be little modifiers you can put on things to raise the height or change the shape of the tiles, right? It's ultimately tile-based, right? So immediately off the bat, what do you need? Well, I need a way to display a map, I need a way to select some tiles, and I need a way to modify those tiles. Yeah? So, big monolithic problem. Now, 3 monolithic problems. We're not better yet, but we're getting there. So then, what do? Let's focus on that map editor. So the next thing you do, okay, you need to display a map. Yeah? So, okay, a map for us consists of multiple layers. You can have, we're not limited to RPG Maker where they do like one map, 1 layer, 2 layers, something like that.
Yeah.
Do what you want. I'm not in the interest of limiting people. Ours is somewhere between Unity and RPG Maker, accessible and easy for a lot of people. But you can blow your leg off with a shotgun because we have if you want to make 1 million variables in it, lag out your computer. Be my guest. That's like on.
Especially I can put that JSON command in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally injection command. Yeah, dangerous.
That's the nuclear bomb.
Yeah. So again, map editor, right? So you have to display a map. You have a bunch of layers. So what does the layer need to do? It needs to show all the tiles on there, right? So you have that, and then how do you show a layer? A single layer. Okay. Well, now you need to be able to show a bunch of tiles, right? And then a tile, you just have to draw it. And you have to know where it is on the screen. So we've taken a very big problem, right? And we've broken it down to something really small. Now, drawing up tiles obviously going to be a little bit more complicated, right? That's specific to whatever you're doing, right? Whatever language or whatever framework you're using. So do that. Cool. If you've done that, cool. Draw a bunch of them now. That's 2 loops. Easy. If you're a computer programmer, you're snoring, it's easy, right? And the layer, okay, that's just 1 loop. So you have 1 loop that calls 2 loops that calls a draw. Map editor, done. Make some interaction. So that's kind of the process. And then to kind of highlight some of the other, I don't want to say growing pains, but I'm a nerdy programmer. And I'm looking across here and I know all you guys, again, are gym rats. Definitely not nerdy whatsoever. we're at Hulk 5000 powerlifting convention. Right? So kind of, I had to learn kind of the business side of it, right? So, and again, you're gonna have to do this if you ever release a game. And the easiest thing you guys can do is actually go to I just did LegalZoom. And for the most part, you can do something called a single person pass-through LLC. And all it is it's a super easy way to do it. All you're doing is, it basically goes on your W-2. Just get another W-2 and you have the protection of an LLC so someone can't sue you and take your house. Yeah, they can kill the business, whatever. But there's no complicated tax work. Like I still have to fill out forms for the state of Texas. We're located in Texas. But outside of that, there's no like extra business tax, whatever, right? It's super simple. If you have a team, it's going to be a little more complicated. So that was kind of the first thing. But then that's also like $600. So how do you do that? Well, after working with some friends, throwing kind of whatever stuck to the wall and getting feedback on it constantly releasing things. I just went and said like, hey, I'm going to open a Patreon and see what happens, right? And as luck would have it, I had so the promise for it was, if you're in there for 3 months, it is $10 a month is kind of how I do my Patreon. You'll get a copy when it comes to Steam. And actually before even early access, right? Because I had the ability you can go, Steam lets you stage things before they actually get released. So, so I did that. And at one point, I think I had 27 members. So the nice thing was 27 members a month. Patreon takes a lot of money out of it, like I think 30, 40%, depending on where they're at. But, at some point, I'm not completely in the red nearly as much because I've got a little bit of funding, right? And for software, it's not like I have to go to their house and build something or ship them something, right? It's super easy, right? There's no cost to me, really, aside from my sanity and missing out on my child. My wife's looking at me right now.
My sanity.
Your sanity. Real MVP there. So, there wasn't a cost and it helped fund that business. And then Steam charges, even to get on there, $100. They actually refunded, I think, once you hit a certain sales quota or something like that, which is nice. So we did that, and I did that. And again, I'm not super in the red on this. I think at the most I was ever only out $200, $300. Just for some people that's a lot, but you stay out, you can just do the Patreon a little longer, right? So then we got to early access, and while we were trying to put together the trailer, Matt had been around and messing around with the engine, trying to do his own thing, and he accidentally became the game developer. Yeah, this is a sucker punch, right? He's actually the game developer who accidentally became one. I'm just the engine developer. So we used some of his footage, and he just kind of got roped in again to the coattails. So that's kind of how we got there. Early access came about, and again, something fun for everyone to know. Steam doesn't actually release at the exact time you think it is. So the goal was originally October 31st, and several competitors were trying to come out around the same time, and they all really bombed. And these are guys these are big players who have complete teams. It's literally just me. I don't want to sell out to anyone big. I've had 2 offers. Very, very poor offers. So I will be able to make way more money on my own. But I like not having red tape. I can do it myself, right? If I decide I want to do something, I'm beholden to no one except really kind of the community that I'm trying to foster development with. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah. 1 week before, so we tried releasing. We were going to, and it's do the Miyamoto thing, right? A rushed game is forever terrible, but if you wait a little while, you can make one that is good. So we ended up not releasing Halloween. I wanted to. And then we ended up releasing January 20th. We set it for January 20th at midnight. And as luck would have it, I woke up I woke up a lot earlier, but I get on my Discord at 7, 8 a.m. and they're like, hey, isn't it supposed to be released now? And no, because it's Steam. Had to go press 5 more buttons to release it. So if you're ever planning on releasing it, don't give a specific hour. Don't be midnight, January 20th. It's going to be...
Don't schedule it.
It's going to be January 20th sometime, right? And then the funny thing is in that first week, I talked about Mono Game very briefly at the beginning, which is, if you guys have ever heard of Microsoft XNA, They released it as a game framework. It kind of ported everywhere. Mono Game made it so it could port even more everywhere. But it had a lot of functionality that did port very well to different places. It's, yeah, we go everywhere, but like, you know, we're promising you an SUV and sometimes you get a bicycle. I ended up switching to a framework called FNA, which is Felipe Jojo. He's got a really weird name. If you guys have ever played Terraria or any games that were ever built on XNA, he's actually done the porting of it. He uses this framework. It's open source. It's free. I ended up porting literally within a week, like literally before early access. I don't recommend it. Putting out fires constantly.
You were stressing, dude.
And you know, that first day it was constantly like fix bugs, fix bugs.
Yeah.
And then kind of where we are now, we're working on, it's been obviously over a year. Well, if I said January, it could have been this year. January 20th of 2023.
Oh.
We're a little bit over halfway to 1.0. There are a lot of things on my radar, but some of them are like one day. And with how quick I code, I'll get, you know, like 40% in one day if I'm lucky. So yeah, so we're just on the road to 1.0 now. Hopefully at the end of the year. But I've yammered on long enough. And to answer the question at the beginning, so real quick, who thinks that the team that left for Everest's Peak with perfect visibility, middle of the day, early, with, you know, visibility, no snowstorm, who thinks they got to the top? Who thinks the team that went super early in the morning in the complete darkness with 2 feet of visibility got to the top? And the third group. Actually, neither of them got to the top, guys. It's the guys with the helicopter. But the correct answer actually is the second. And you know why, right? I think I kind of alluded to this a little bit, right? It's because they were only ever focused with taking one step at a time. The team at the beginning who had that visibility, like they could see the peak, right? But they gave up because they're like, man, I see it. I can almost taste it, but you know, it's easy to give up. The second team had no idea. They took way longer. They took, I think, 4 hours longer to get to the peak. But they had no idea, like, for as far as like progress, right? So they took like another, what the estimated original team was going to be, and then plus 4 hours. But because they only knew about that, and like, again, this is anything you guys do. If you just want to do a push-up, if you want to learn how to bake, right?
You want to be
Like,
a musician.
If you want to be a musician, get a piano, you know, get a cup, tap it a little bit. Let's another one, right?
That's how I started.
It is. So yeah, I'm gonna actually let these guys who actually a professional game musician and the sucker punch of who actually did become the true game developers. Have a couple minutes to talk.
Matt, do you want to start or you want me to start?
You go ahead, man.
Okay. Yeah, so I got into this, I used to work construction, okay? And I went to school for music for, you know, I don't even remember what year, 2008, 2007-ish. Always wanted to get into music, but I was trying to play it safe, you know, to keep your safe job in the day, do that on the side. That's the way you do it. And I did that for 8 or 9 years. And sure, it was the safe move, and I was paying my bills, blah, 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 but it was kind of just crushing me inside. Like, and I knew, like, I was driving into work one day, and I was like, I gotta put in my notice today. I've got some savings. I got some money on the side. I really need to give this music thing an actual try and just take a chance on myself. You know, take the leap of faith. The parachute's not going to open right away. I'm going to get some bumps and bruises on the way, but I got to at least try so I don't regret this when I get older, right?
And you didn't take the one that I had filled with a bunch of like sledgehammers, so that was good.
Yeah.
That one might have been a little heavier.
You almost got me with that one.
I did.
So in 2020, right, you know, right in the midst of COVID, I was like, all right, this is the chance. And I just went all in on composing music for games, right? And yeah, at first it was really tough and I didn't get any gigs. I had no network. I didn't know anybody. The mutual friend of Taylor's was another composer who just saw my Twitter post of, put in my 2 weeks notice today, going all in on the game composing, and this random guy was like, hey, you got this, man. Keep, you know, I'm going in too. Like, we can do this. And became good friends with that guy. Anyway, he introduced me and Taylor. But Yeah, and like he was saying, it's just one step at a time, one little, comment here or networking with this person, reaching out to people, hey, I really like the way your game looks, like sincerely, this is awesome, you got something good going on, and just meeting people, networking a little bit at a time, and it's 4 years later, I'm still doing this. I'm paying my bills. I have credits, like you said, on about 18 games now. There's a couple coming out later this year. This year officially, I will have music on the Nintendo Switch, on PlayStation, and on Xbox, which blows my mind, dude. Like as a kid growing up, that's. Wow, thank you guys. So it's really like the fact that I was able to pull that off. Even if 5 years from now I do have to return to some crazy day job or whatever, I at least know I took a chance. I've got my name on credits. I've been a success with this, right? It doesn't matter that I'm not like, Uematsu or Mitsuda or whatever. I'm not at that level, right? But
I don't know. Last time I saw Uematsu was following you recently, so
well, that was another highlight. He's joking. He's not following me.
Thank you for humoring me.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
That's the dream, right? That's the vision.
That would be amazing. But
Yeah, it's actually Williams, so
right. But no, I do want to say that I've been thinking about it a lot recently. I don't think there's ever been a better time to get into indie game development because the tools that are on the market right now, I mean, besides rpgarchitect, like the amount of tools that are on the market right now, anybody can do it. Like I don't know how to code, like at all. I've tried many times and I get it, a week or a month in and I'm just like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But the amount of tools that are on the market right now that you don't have to code, you can be an artist, you can be a musician, you can use visual scripting. If you have an idea, if you have a creative idea, you owe it to yourself to try to bring that to life, right? Just, even if you don't do the crazy leap of faith like I did, because I don't have kids, I don't have a wife, my expenses, it was a very calculated move, I'll put it that way.
And the outhouse is pretty nice that you.
The outhouse is pretty nice. I got lighting.
Low living.
I got lighting in there now. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, pretty soon I'm gonna get a lock on the door. But yeah, there's never been a better chance. And I mean, if you look at the scene right now, if you look at AAA gaming, I mean, if you've followed it all, you guys know that there's been a lot of stuff like burning. Yeah, exactly. AAA is not looking good right now, unless you're Nintendo, and even that is kind of like, I don't know.
You guys know Final Fantasy VII, right? Final Fantasy VII, the Rebirth. Yeah. So sorry, I played the original. I haven't touched the other one until they actually finish it. That's considered a financial failure, and they're actually debating dropping it entirely.
Yeah.
Because they went to Sony only, and it only sold 7 million copies. Only. It's $60 a pop or what? Yeah.
Yeah, but when you have those huge budgets for these big, massive AAA, 70+, 100-hour plus games, I mean, you have to sell a copy to basically everybody in the world to break even. So going back, if you think about the indie game scene over the past 10 years, some of the biggest titles that have come out, the biggest franchises have been indie games made by like 1 or 2 people. You got Five Nights at Freddy's, you got Undertale, you got Hollow Knight, you got Stardew Valley, you got
Terraria.
What'd you say?
And 80s is big now. Actually, no.
Blasphemous.
Yeah.
And a little game called Baldur's Gate 3 is technically actually an indie studio.
It is. Yeah.
Which was on early access.
Thank you.
I like projecting.
Oh,
That works.
anybody who does that has never bought a microphone before.
And I'm used to having project for my.
Bring the thunder.
I'm the audio guy. I'm like, that hurt me when you did that. But anyway, so yeah, there's never. Anyway, there's, if you have an idea, if you're an artist, you're a musician, if you know how to code, I mean, that's even better, honestly. But being a game designer, a game developer, it's not limited to people who know how to code these days, right? So just start working on your vision, one step at a time. Come up with a plan, one little step at a time, even if it's just drawing a tree into your game each day.
That is. Thank you for using that. Yeah, that was the example I gave earlier. So yeah. Literally going in it, even if you have no motivation, you're like, I'm just gonna paint this happy little tree, right? Right? That's gonna. It's something.
Yeah.
And every day you take, again, that little step,
Yeah. And
that's something.
what did Bob Ross call them? Happy little accidents. You know.
A lot of happy little accidents makes a portrait, as it turns out.
There you go.
Or in your case, a game engine.
There you go. Matt, do you want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like to kind of piggyback off the discussion, like when you're making a game, you start small. You know, like either you get into the engine, you go get an engine. You can get like Unreal Engine, you can get Unity, any engine, but preferably RPG Architect, of course. But you can either start,
Humble brag.
yeah.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, non-sponsored.
So you start by just making a map, and you drop in the assets. And there, speaking of assets and stuff, like there's music, there's assets. So many artists out there who publish free stuff, paid stuff, but like that's how I got into this because years ago, like I've always, kind of had a hobby of making games. I've always been very creative, even when I was a kid. And so I'm going to kind of show my age here a little bit, but I got started in an engine called ZZT. Anyone remember that? Anyone familiar with that?
That one has any
Okay.
idea what you're talking about.
I'm too old.
You're old.
Not old. Have you guys ever heard of Epic Games?
Yeah.
That was his first game.
Yeah, Tim Sweeney. That was his very
The
first thing. It was a
CEO.
little thing called ZZT.
Oh.
And it was based in like DOS, like Windows, old Windows.
That wasn't even when it was DOS.
It was DOS.
Wow,
And
DOS.
you could, the cool thing about it is you could make custom maps with it and custom games. And so like I got started in that, I was like 14, 15, and I was making games in this little ASCII-based, DOS-based engine. And then I moved up to another one called Mega Zeus, which is a little fancier. And a friend of mine, we actually spent like a summer, this whole school year, making a game in this engine. And we were trying to emulate like Final Fantasy, the first Final Fantasy in this engine. And it looked pretty good. But then, after we graduated, we kind of just lost touch with it. But in the back of my mind, it was living in my mind for a long time because I'm very nostalgic. And so over the years, I picked up RPG Maker. I was messing with it. I'm like, because I want to recreate this game in RPG Maker. Like my goal was to eventually, I want to recreate this mainly for nostalgia purposes and to show my friend, hey, here's this game that we made so many years ago, re-envisioned. And I even told him, dude, I'm making this game. I want you to help me test it. And he's like, yeah, great. He was excited. And so I'm messing around with RPG Maker, and to what Taylor said, the limitations of that engine, you can't do a whole lot, and the games all look the same, right?
You get a skin on top of RPG Maker. You look at it, you're like, yep, this is definitely RPG Maker.
Yeah.
There's Harold again with a 97
Yeah.
time.
And so I'm making my game, trying to recreate this game in RPG Maker, and I'm going through the assets. I went to itch.io. I bought some tiles from a guy named Final Boss Blues, and great artist, by the way. He makes really good stuff. So anyway, he posted on his Twitter that he was working with RPG Architect. I'm like, oh, what's this? And so I'm checking it out. I go to their Patreon. I watch a little video, and I'm like,
This is the first time hearing, so this is actually how you
that's how I found you through FBB.
I didn't know either.
You didn't know that?
Oh, no, another mutual friend, yeah.
You didn't know? Okay.
Yeah.
And so
I'm learning things today, guys, in my own panel.
yeah, I could have sworn I told him. Anyway, so that's how I found him. So I bought into his Patreon, and then the rest is history. So accidentally, right? Like one thing leads to another. You start out with a vision, you start building on it, and then you start exploring different possibilities, and then you accidentally become a game developer.
Yeah.
So here I am, and it's been a blast. I'm having a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and we'll see where this goes. So sky's the limit.
Yeah, and again, to even reiterate on that, right? Even if you don't have a tool in mind, right? You can always make a game design document. Maybe you have a story in mind. You're like, man, there's this epic scene I want somewhere in here. Write it down.
Yep.
Put it in there. Put it in order. You can make the other thoughts in between. You can add characters later. You can figure out what happened 5,000 years ago prior that set the entire events in motion for Mario wanting to step on a spiky-tailed turtle
Yeah.
dinosaur thing, right?
It really is.
It's a very complicated story that
Well, even for writing the story too, right? Like you can, it starts out in your head and you write it down, but then there are tools as well to kind of help you, come up with, ideas, like ChatGPT. But don't rely on that solely though. It helps you get started.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't ever let it write the story for you because it's going to be really weird.
And
Pick up on it too.
not just that too, but keep in mind, like this is kind of one of the things I like to harp on a lot. Funny enough, going into an AI.
AI, here we go.
But keep in mind, like AI and robotics and all that stuff was made to make our lives easier, right? It wasn't made to make all of our creative processes, right?
Yeah.
The idea of like, you played Final Fantasy X, they had no, they didn't have to work. So what did they do? They did art. They did blitzball, you know, like they played sports ball, right? Everyone here plays sports ball. But you know, like, don't let the creative process be completely ruined and pulled out for you, right? If you're an artist or you have a vision, don't let that be generated. You can foster ideas from it for sure, please do.
Yeah.
But don't let that be what does everything. Because we've had a couple people in there who came into our Discord who made basically everything with AI, and it's just, you can see it's a soulless game. You can really feel it, and no one was really interested, and they, other things aside. Anyways,
One other piece of advice too is like don't. There's this thing called scope creep. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of that term, but don't. You start small. Yeah, if you're a programmer, you know scope creep. So a lot of games suffer from that because they try to load so many systems into their game because the designer will have this idea and be like, oh, let's do this. Oh, let's add this. And let's make it all connected. Let's
Call
make
of Duty 7, now with farming mini game.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. So
Scope creep, everyone loves it. Add
Yeah.
Minecraft too.
yeah, so like a game with a lot of systems, it can be fun, but at the same time, it's not fun because you've got all these little miniature things you got to do. And I think another good example, and I hate to rag on them, but Warcraft. You know, like for a long time, they suffered from scope creep and system creep because they just stuck so much stuff that you could do, and it was overwhelming. So when you're a game developer, you don't want to overwhelm your audience. You want to start small, start out with just tell your story. Tell your story, and then later on you can add other things, either in a subsequent game or as DLC, whatever, but don't overwhelm
no
your
DLC.
Yeah, no DLC.
What are you talking?
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
the moral of the story is don't overwhelm your users.
right.
Because when a game becomes unfun, that's when people will stop playing it.
Yeah.
And when the first 40 hours are the tutorial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the point of
I'm not
starting,
looking at my favorite game, Xenoblade, at all.
don't get this guy started
get
on
him started.
Xenoblade, please.
Yeah, please.
I gotta sit in the booth with him all day. Please don't start him on it.
He's got a stun gun under his.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's what we're trying to accomplish, like like the sample games that come with the engines. Like we're trying not to overload them with too much bloat because we want them to be fun, we want them to be engaging and entertaining, but we don't want them to be boring as well. So when you have like someone like one time a guy told me, oh, you need to put like a card game system into the game. You need to add like a cooking system and collectibles and things like that. Okay, yeah, that's all cool, but it's not the point of the game unless you're making a game about cooking. Or you're making a game about collecting monsters, which are very popular, by the way. But if you're making a game where you're trying to tell a story in a role-playing game, you don't want to add all this extra stuff to it.
Yeah. Actually, I want to touch on the point again of starting small. If you are just getting started in game development, it is not an easy field, I will say that. But so you do want to start small in all aspects. So if you have this grand vision for a game, right, that has 15 different systems or whatever in it, start with a little mini game that just focuses on one system. Start with just a walking simulator where you just get a character in a map walking around and publish it to itch.io or wherever you want to publish it.
That was literally actually rpgarchitect version 0.0000001,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
just
literally what we're talking about. Like,
bare
get a guy
minimum.
on the map, walk him.
Yeah.
To have a map.
Minimum viable product. And so do that and then do it again with a different feature. Then do it again with a different thing. And if it's, if your grand vision is a huge story, then just write one little chapter. Write one little scene from the story, okay? Yeah, and I think that's the best way to really get started. And depending on what your discipline is, like you were saying earlier, there's tons of asset packs. So if you're a great programmer, but you're a terrible artist or terrible musician, you don't have to start everything from scratch. You have plenty of resources and materials to pull from just to get yourself going and to get that proof of concept down basically, and to put out there and show other people like, hey, okay, this is my idea. And if you're networking, you can be like, hey, I love your artwork. Would you like to replace the default art I have in here, the placeholder art?
And don't be bashful too, right? If
Yeah.
you're just a writer, cool. There are people who just like Jason, our pixel artist, which is weird because Final Boss Blues' last name is also Jason, so it's really
Yeah.
confusing when I say Jason.
For us.
But only for us. But Like if you're a writer, cool. Jason only wants to do pixel art. He just wants to draw stuff. Cool. If I'm a writer and he's a pixel artist and Mondune's the programmer and Bert is the you got a team.
You got a team?
There you go.
We're done.
Yep.
And we like in our Discord, we have a thing for like game jams for like find a team. Cool.
Yeah.
And you can do that with anything. Like most even RPG Maker and all these other tools. Like I think Unity even has one like find a team. Advertise who you are.
Well, speaking of game jams, that's another really good way to get your game or your idea out there. Like you go join a game jam.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the game jams are cool because they'll give you a goal, they'll give you an idea of a theme, and then they'll give you a deadline and a time frame.
Yes.
And so you don't have unlimited time. And so that kind of helps encourage you and spur you on to get something out there.
Yep.
And even if, you make a walking simulator or you make a walking simulator with like one monster encounter or whatever, you get that out there, you get it submitted to the game jam, people will see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're trying to do as well with our game jams. We give our community a theme and we say, okay, make this game. We'll judge it. And if you do well, we'll maybe give you a little prize or whatever, or a shout out, whatever. But game jams are probably one of the best ways as a beginning indie developer to get your name out there.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're not sure where to find game jams, itch.io is a great site to go to. I mean, they have game jams all the time. We host game jams a couple times a year. The only stipulation with us is that we like people.
We give you a free copy of RPG Architect, which you have to use if
Yeah.
you win. So, it's
Yeah.
a real good selling point.
Yeah. So, yeah, game jams are great because also you're getting those reps in. It's just like anything, you're getting reps in, and the smaller the project is, then you can get it done and move on to the next one. You got a deadline. And if you don't make it, then it's cool. You tried, you put in the effort, you tried. Just, keep going, try on the next one. So, anything else we want to cover? We can throw out
Q&A if you want.
Q&A if anybody has questions. I will come to you with the mic if you would like. Anyway,
He showered this morning, so he's
Yeah.
we're good, right?
you want me to walk back there? I will. I ain't afraid.
Unless you can project.
What's Discord?
What's the Discord?
What's the Discord? Was the
Discord?
question. I'm gonna let you ask it in the mic.
What's the site for how to access Discord for the game jam stuff?
How do we access the Discord?
If you go to our website, rpg-architect.com, someone probably owns RPG, I shouldn't say probably, someone does own rpgarchitect.com without the dash, and when they said you have to talk to a lawyer to discuss buying, I was like, yeah, it's way out of my price range.
Yeah, so rpg-architect.com.
And
Or if you find us on YouTube, there's links there too. So just look up RPG Architect on YouTube
Or on Steam.
or on Steam.
Yep.
Our Discord link's there too, so you can find us. We're at booth 1903 as well, if you guys want to stop by.
Yeah, booth
Yeah.
1903.
We have merch lady here today, who is proudly asking me why no one's buying our shirts that I didn't put out at all, and who told me to get stickers but did not remind me to get business cards. So everyone's taking his business cards.
Yeah, I brought
Not your publicity, I'm just the merch lady.
Merch lady.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns, insults? I'll take an insult. Hey.
All right, we got an insult.
So, not really a question, but
Sure.
if you put your info in your phone, you can share it to people that want your business card.
That involves using technology. I'm really
He's not good at technology.
notoriously bad with technology.
It's a fun fact there.
We do have a QR code on our sheet so people can do that, but some people, funny enough, have said I'm terrible with technology as well. And
Programmers are the worst.
Yeah, why is the musician the best one at technology? That don't make sense.
yeah, watch how good you are with technology on the YouTube tutorials.
Yeah. All right.
They're entertaining.
Let's not bring that up.
I was told to bring up Xenoblade 3.
Oh, well, that's time.
Well, Takahashi has been planning this since 1994, very clearly after Xenogears got caught on disc 2. And actually amazing game.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's great. It was really nice to see how they kind of pulled 1 and 2 together. Anyways, I'm going to stop now because I will be stopping the next booth. Feel free to stop by the booth and totally waste both of our time. Noah is Faye, by the way, totally. As is Matthew is Faye, yeah, but
But yeah, we good?
yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I have been Bert. This has been Taylor. This has been Matt. You guys have been amazing. Like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. Smash the subscribe button.
And don't forget to follow your dreams, guys.
Follow your dreams.
No, we never say that.
All right. Bye, y'all. See you on the floor.
Thanks, guys. Have a great